Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Green Dragon Podcast. I'm your host today, Tom, and we are joined by Steve Pokorny. Um, he's the founder for Freedom Coaching, and he was going to share it with us his own story, how he made the business, and then what it does, and then how to combat pornography in the world, and to help share some hope with others. So, thank you for joining us, Steve.
An honor, Tom. Thanks so much for having the podcast today.
Yeah. Um, it was great when you reached out and been talking a few weeks here. I'm glad we're able to do this. I was checking out your website a little bit before this, and I was wondering if you could just share your story of um, what inspired you to make your consulting business, coaching business, and then um, what you see as like the main ways to help the youth in America.
Wow, not a loaded question at all. So
Yeah.
thanks for the soft. All right, let's take these one at a time here. And again, anything I share in here, if there's any good that I share, Tom, glory to God. If anything bad, we can blame me. So I'll take that. So, um, pornography use almost killed,
Mm,
and that's not a stretch of the imagination. So that we are on the same line and that we are understand the same thing. What is pornography? Pornography is any image, written or audio that is intentionally designed to evoke a user of that to use another person as a means of one's own selfish sexual gratification. So
mm,
with that definition, it's much bigger than just the stuff now that we see online. It's magazines, movies, music, and a lot of the stuff because it's so very common in our just the world we live in, actually in the Western world, but Eastern world as well. Um, we take this for granted. This is just the way life is. And sadly, this is not the way it was designed to be. We were made for more. So for me, my story, I grew up with a mom, dad, brother. I do a dog. I have two dogs now. They're crazy. Life is good. Um, all of that changed when I was 5 years old.
mm,
And my father was a Vietnam vet. So he had a love for our country. He also had a love for his family, and he wanted to provide for his family. But Vietnam, like many of the soldiers who came back from that war, and any soldier who comes back from war is the same. And so he had some mental disorders, had some stuff going on there, definitely emotional. And even he was practicing lawyer, he wanted, I mean, I remember one of my earliest visions of waiting for daddy to come home, right? And we had a large hill in front of our house and just waiting for him when he would take the bus and come up that hill. And so I could greet him, just waiting, waiting, waiting. So, about the time that I was 5, my father wanted to get rich quick and he wanted to bet our house in the stock market. Right. So there's a good desire there, right? A desire to want to provide for his family. But the way that he wants to go about it, not good. And my
mm.
mom said no. And my father said, I'm going to do it anyway. So he bet the house anyway, literally. He bet the house and the deal lost. And the way in which to provide for a family, because he's a vet, would be by killing himself.
Oh
So
no.
he went. Mhm. So into the garage, he turned on the garage on the car, closed the garage door, and a half an hour later, when my mom pulled him out of that, his short term memory was gone. So he was moved to a nursing home, and I grew up, and I know intimately what it's like to grow up without a father, and it's a very commonplace, sadly, in more and more homes now. And I grew up hating myself. That gaping wound that's there. There's not just a missing space in my mother's bed, but a missing space in my heart. And trying to fill this with lots of things and just being alone and nobody understands. And so I thought, you know what, like father, like son, if I just take myself out of the picture, nobody will care. It won't matter. My life doesn't matter. And I remember journaling that. And this negativity, this gray cloud would ebb and flow in my life up until when my father, when I was 17, doctors, and by the way, I would visit him every once in a while in the nursing home. Um, lived about probably 2.5 hours away from where I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. And but I can never relate to him because he can't remember anything really. He remembered
Mm.
me because before 1985, he can remember some things. So but couldn't connect with him. It was just awkward, really, really weird.
Mm.
And that was my feelings. And so doctors in 2017 discovered my dad was losing a lot of weight. They ran some tests and discovered he had developed brain and lung cancer. And he got moved to a hospice. And there wasn't much time left there. And I went into his room and I was just real with him. And I said, Dad, you left me. You walked out on mom. You weren't there for Brian. You abandoned us. And so much of my life, my dad, his speech was slurred. That was the experience. And a strange man taking up space. A kid to visit. But for a brief moment, his eyes kind of cleared up. And he said, I know. And that was his way of saying, I'm sorry. I apologize. So for the first time in my life, I was able to start forgiving my father.
Mm.
Weeks later, less than 3 feet away, I lost my father for a second time.
Mm.
Now, to understand the next part of the story, infamous year, seventh grade, I got busted for shoplifting, right? And
Mm.
my grandparents, my father's parents, bailed me out of that situation. This would be a different situation, different story if they hadn't done that. It was also the year in which I really got exposed to pornography. Actually, Tom, a year prior to this, before I get to other forms of pornography, I was walking down the street about 8 houses down, and I'm crossing the street, and right in the middle of the street, there's this brown paper bag. I open it up, and it's torn up pictures of hardcore pornography. I've never seen anything like this, right?
Mm.
And like winning lottery, right? This lottery ticket, what did I do? I hit it, but this thing is bursting out. I just won the lottery, right? And I go to school and I blab to another guy who's also coming from a broken situation. His parents are divorced and
Mm.
he's thirsty for love. He finds that I've got some free septic tank and a way to access it. So what does he do? He's like, I'll give you $20 for the bag right now on the spot. I'm thinking $20 at a sixth grader, 12 years of age at that time. That was a good deal. I'm like, I'm gonna go buy more candy, right? That was what's
Uh-huh.
going on here, right? So at 12 years of age, Tom, I'm a porn peddler. Yeah, I was. I didn't know what I was doing. So come the next year, right? That year of shoplifting was also the year in which I exposed to images to video of pornography coming from another classmate of mine whose parents had videos in their bedroom. They were sharing it there,
Wow.
right? So there's a theme here, this brokenness, right, of marriage and family that's there, right? And so I'm seeing things. I'm seeing women doing. I saw those ripped up pictures, and now I'm seeing in action, in motion, women doing things that I never thought were really how. This is incredible, and or amazing, or stupefying, or whatever. And so there's a movement towards excitement, but also what began in me was guilt, shame, self hatred,
Mm.
and and again, there's no real dialogue about this. My dialogue on healthy sexual wholesome formation came a little earlier when with another friend of mine we were doing dirty ad libs. Okay, and my mom sat me down because she found out about it and said, all right, what do you know about sex? I said, what? And that was it. That was the extent of our conversation. There was no formation whatsoever. Okay, so
Wow.
nature abhors vacuum. So to answer one of the questions here, parents need to be involved, intimately involved, and it's a much different situation than let's say 1990 when I was awakening this. This was being awakened in me, right? So fast forward, I would start to get in this. This is right about the time that the internet is getting popular, right? And I found myself in high school um, starting to get in this. But I also knew this is wrong. I'd grown up Catholic. My mom had had tried to raise me best as much as a single mom could do. And so my typical week moving into high school was I would uh, feel tempted, look at pornography, masturbation, feel guilty, go to confession, and then feel free for maybe 2, maybe 3 days, maybe less, maybe a little more. And you draw right back into that very powerful light, right?
Mhm.
And again, with the internet, it's different than just videos, is old tapes or things like that, because it's more and more and more. It's faster and faster and faster. It's hitting more on the dopamine receptors for them. And I didn't know any of the science. And so I quickly found myself trapped. I'm an extrovert, right? I like being with people. Tom, I'm really glad we're having this conversation. And jump in anytime. I'm an open book. And um, but I would take the perspective like I like being with all you, but I want all you to go away because I want to go to my happy place. So I'm stealing relationships. I'm stealing the ability to connect with people, which is what we're made for. We're made for communion with others.
Mhm.
And so father situation happens. I had moved in with my aunt and uncle at the time. And then I would go on to college and college at Syracuse University, porn is up and down the hallway, unmitigated, unlimited, right? My roommate would leave my room and then I'd use it, right? And I actually felt knocking to go to seminary. I would go to seminary for 4 years, but our human and sexual development was very lacking. There was actually a guy by the name of Joe, good guy, really good guy, but he created a sticker sheet for Lent once that for every day you don't masturbate, you get a gold star. And I don't think anybody finished Lent. These are our future priests, right? So it's a,
Wow.
and again, this is many years ago, but it's still a problem, right? And so, but we're not talking about this stuff, but it's affecting all of us. It's the I like to call it the 572,000 pound elephant in the room that's right, it's breathing right down your neck, and we're just kind of trying to ignore it. Okay. And it's devastating us, especially emotionally. And that's especially why it was so deadly, right? And so for me, right, this is I would like to say impacted my vision, right? Perfect days, beautiful blue skies. I'm numb inside. I can't connect with people. And I started blaming women. Oh, if you weren't so beautiful, if you didn't dress that way, I wouldn't have a problem. There's this raging volcano under here that I'm keeping in check, but it come out in other ways, right? Is the problem really the women, Tom? The
No.
problem's me. The problem's me, right? And what I had been exposed to, right? So I became like a woman who would be confession week after week after week, 30 years confessing that she had killed her child or participated in the killing of her child through abortion. And the brokenness there, hearing she's forgiven from the priest, but couldn't forgive herself. This is me. I can't forgive myself for what I did. Gee, I mean, this is unforgivable. And no words of the priest can help me. And I'm going to seminary, right? I should know it all, right? So I leave seminary, leave major seminary. I did 4 years, 3 years undergrad, 1 year major seminary in Cleveland. I went to one very difficult year of high school theology, and then I found myself at Franciscan University in Steubenville.
Mhm.
And you know anything about Francis? You're only Catholic, right? There's something
Yeah.
beautiful about these communities, right? And I had there's on the first Saturday of every month called FOPS or Festival of Praises. I think 1,500 people praising God in music, song. There's also some prophecy that would be proclaimed. And I heard from Isaiah 43:19, a word that would change my life. And that word is, "Behold, I'm doing something new. Do you not perceive it? Streams of living water will begin to flow." Paraphrasing there. And so as I drinking from the septic tank for a long time, there was now this fresh water starting to happen. And then the reason is I give you a crack. I started saying, you know what? I can't do this. I can't be done. I don't know what to do. Right? I'm broken. And I think that's also another starting point. Okay.
Mhm.
Like with any of our clients that we work with in freedom coaching, we don't want the ones that are like, I'm here, wife said I need to come. Or, my mom says I have a problem. All right, fine. Right. We don't want those people. I want the people who are broken, who know they're broken. Like, I've tried everything. I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
That's who we want to talk to, right? And that's who God needed to get my attention. He needed to get my attention to get me to that place. So I'm hearing this, and I'm starting to give him a crack. And when you give God an inch, he'll take it all. Okay. It's
Hmm.
dangerous. It's crazy, crazy dangerous. As a who's the I can't remember the English poet, but the hound of heaven, right? He will pursue us to our final breath. That's what he does, right? And he won't stop unless at our final breath we say no. He'll always respect our free will. He's sneaky, right? He'll find his way in, right? And no matter what the enemy tries to do, no weapons formed against us shall prosper if we'll allow him to wield that weapon. All right. So from this here, I'm starting to daily mass. I've been going to daily mass, but I'm really going to daily mass. And like Jesus is talking to me, right? There's things that are going on. I'm like, what is happening? Weird, right? And I'm just moved to gratitude for what Jesus has done for me, especially in the Eucharist, where I'm receiving his body, blood, soul, divinity, love liquefied, poured out for you, for me, so we can live eternally, but also live an extraordinary life here on earth. And then, particularly Wednesday, 2 weeks later, it happened. Boom, 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 boom. It wasn't just the Father that was moving. It wasn't just Jesus that was moving me to gratitude, but it was the Father. It was the one that I thought had left me, had abandoned me, had walked out. No, he had been carrying me. If you remember, there's an old Footprints poem, like "Where were you, God?" and all, and this dream, and this I see only one set of footprints in all the journeys of life, and he says, in the really darkest and most difficult moments of life, a child is carrying you, and that's what he was doing, and he wanted me to stop struggling and surrender,
Hmm.
surrender to his. And that's, as a guy, that's it's really intimidating because I'm supposed to be in control, right?
Yeah.
Tom, we're not ever really in control.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's freedom in the letting go, right? Okay. And and he wanted me to just slap, be cradled as a father, cradled as a son, and be held, be loved, be nurtured. And as this is happening, with tears coming down my cheeks, it happens.
Hmm.
Boom. There's a tangible experience of freedom explodes in and through me. And I knew it. This desire to want to use my sisters was replaced by desire to want to serve them. Right. And for 4 months, Tom, it was like, what is going on here? Right? Amazing. I have unfiltered internet. I have full access. I'm working on papers late at night. No desire whatsoever. This is awesome, right? And it was awesome, right? But then about 4 months later, just like Peter took his eyes off of Jesus, I sank very hard back into the septic tank. And I'm thinking, like,
Oh.
does this count what happened to me? Like, does this mean that what I went through doesn't matter? No. He wants to get to the see, that's the thing about this is the thing about Jesus. He wants all of us. He's not going to be satisfied. He's the bridegroom. And he wants all of the bride. No, Tom, you don't have to put on a beautiful dress. Please don't do that. Right? No, we right in relation to God, we propose nothing. It's the bridegroom proposing a love affair to us as bride to receive from him, right? And in receiving from him, it changes everything. It does. Oh, it does. And
Yeah.
so he wanted to get to the root. So a series of events, a series of multiple years. A lot of that was adoration, seeing Jesus. A lot of it was grappling with things. I would actually go on to the JP2 Institute for Marriage and Family Studies in the DC area, and there was, and I was on a Saturday night, in fact, and I was putting dishes away because that's apparently what you do at 11:30 p.m. Put dishes away, and I'm in pain, just this gut wrenching, aching pain, and I fall on the floor, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what to do. Help me, right? He needed me to be fully broken. There have
Mm.
been moments this through life, but like all the searching, like had to break. And so in the midst of this, there were three things that would come to. One was called theophostic prayer. Right? Theophostic prayer is where the smoke leads to the fire. The emotions are what to the root of things. So it's a deep, deep prayer, visualization prayer. It's good. I don't want to speak ill of too much, but I kind of felt like I had to be kind of re-traumatized because I feel those emotions again as in real life. Right? Important, but on a better way. And a second thing I discovered was something called intensive trauma therapy. Now that's shock therapy, right, Pokorny? No, it's not. This is writing and drawing. Okay. I told a story. It's not so much the details, but what were the emotions in those stories? What are the stories that I believed about myself? And so in 1 week, we processed 21 of 30 trauma. Okay. And
Wow.
on Wednesday of that week, it was the first time I ever really talked to somebody about my pornography use. Really went deep into all the stuff. I've given some testimonies before, but like this is really going deep into all the details of this, right? Going after the emotions of those times. And I walked out of the office that Wednesday, all the lights came on. It was profoundly brighter. Whereas the world had been kind of darker for a long time, now really bright and vivid. The colors came back. It was goodness, a palpable goodness here. And the third thing that put the final nail in the coffin was the church has a beautiful vision of the human body. Okay. And stuff a lot of theology of the body. And this is a big, big part of the solution, I like to say. And I got it here. I was starting to get it here, but he also wanted me to get it here. So I'm pointing for those who are listening, head, heart, and vision. And the church has a beautiful, unbelievable way of depicting the human person and the human body, okay, the body person. And by seeing images of the body unclothed appropriately, because there's inappropriate ways, which is what the pornified culture is, but then there's also ones, especially through art,
Mhm.
through music, through dance, that help us to see the body correctly. Scales fell from my eyes. There's no longer this desire to raven with lust. Again, a very different reaction and response, especially if somebody is not dressed appropriately for the occasion. Right? There's a sadness. Right? I want something more for you, and I definitely want something more for me. I don't want to use you. And so I sit before you, Tom, as a man. I'd rather die than lust, because lust, to paraphrase C.S. Lewis, is a weak, whimpering, whispering thing compared to the desire that arises when lust has been killed. Right. And this is what's happened in me. Right. So and before I get into, I know there's a next part, kind of other part of the story, but or of your question there, but I want to open up for if you have any feedback, anything there, any follow-up questions before we move.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a story. I mean, I've heard of so many divorced parents causing, like immense trauma in kids, and I'm so thankful that my parents have stayed together my whole life.
Praise God.
Um, but I, it's what you're talking about is like, the God bringing us through those traumatic moments into His light, and I've heard this a few times from different people I follow that your test becomes your testimony. How like
Mm,
things that you go through are what allow you to help others. Um, and so I think it's always hard to think about when you're in the moment of like, oh, I don't feel like I'm really getting anywhere in life. And really, it's just like you may be in a dark place, but that doesn't disqualify you from actually getting out of it and then helping another person. Um, so yeah, just thinking about your story, it's like it's pretty crazy. Like especially when it feels like you can't get over something. Like I know I've had my own struggles in life for sure. Um,
mm,
I don't know if I've ever really fallen too far down pornography, but there's definitely always that temptation, And every time it happens, you just feel so sick inside. You're just like,
mm,
I didn't only let God down, I felt like I let that person down too. Like
mm,
you think about like if you put a name to the person that you just looked at that way, you're like, oh, like that isn't respectful to her. Um, and I know I'm better than that, and I should be called to be better than that. Why am I not listening to that call? Um,
mm.
so yeah, thank you so much for sharing like your story so far. I mean, was did you ever like when you felt like you're completely broken, did you feel like there was no more hope, or did you feel like there might have been some hope after your 4 months?
That's a great question, Tom. I'm an optimist, I would say.
Yeah.
By It's probably with my choleric nature, right? I'm also a get it done kind of guy. Um, but what was most frustrating is how I don't
Mm,
know what to do, right? So, because I mean, I had been in the midst of the second grad school of John Paul II Institute of like I'm still doing all these things. I'm praying. I'm doing the right thing as much as I can, right? But I still feel this weight, this ugliness, and not able to really connect with people. And like, why God, why? It's kind of like that Job situation, right? The clouds never parted. He never put me in my place. But I I think he's a good father. He doesn't, as St. Peter says, right? We're never tested beyond our means, right? And so he needed me to get there to realize, Steve, you cannot do this on your own. You
mm,
must allow me to do this. And it's it's not the lust anymore, but it's no other things in life where I'm like, I can do this myself. No, you can't. Thy will be done. Oh, okay, fine. Right. Okay. So there's freedom in the letting go. There's a freedom in surrendering, doing that.
yeah. Mm,
Yeah. So, answer continuing on this. So,
yeah.
I love what you said, Tom, about right. Our test becomes our testimony. Often things that are a struggle are a sign of how we're supposed to enter in. Now, my last name's Pokorny. Um, if you take out some letters, porn appears. So should I have I should have I should have known years ago that I guess maybe I'm going to be involved in this realm on some level. I know it's hilarious. But and if you were wondering, the term Pokorny is a Czech name, and in Polish it means humble, and in Russian it means peace. So I'm a walking contradiction twice over. That's a side note. So
Wow.
from yeah, I'll figure that out. So from here, I I started giving talks on theology of the body. I started giving my testimony at Franciscan. And this is even before I'm even fully done with this stuff, but the desire because I try, I'm not perfect, but I try to live my life in accordance with truth. And nothing makes me more angry and irritated is when I encounter a lie. And I know a lot because I walked in lies for a long time, and the shall we say the embodied understanding of the gospel through this theology of the body. We're meant to live in and through our bodies in a profound way, revealing the uncreated love, revealing the Trinity. That's what we're supposed to do. And our world has been lying to us and been lying to us about sexuality and marriage and family and love and sex and all these things, right? So, and especially the body. So desire to want to go deep in this, right? To share this with others. So this would lead me to I would be working for the Archdiocese of San Antonio. I live in San Antonio currently,
Mhm.
and we'd be giving marriage. This would be after I would get married with my own wife, and that's actually one beautiful part of where the fruit that came from this. Whereas when I and my wife knew my whole story, right? We got married, and the night I gave myself to her, and she gave herself to me, there was no shame.
Mm,
There was beauty and goodness and unity, right? Laughter, right? What the marital act was designed to be from the beginning. But this is not the vision that our young children are getting, right? Especially if all we're seeing is the brokenness of marriage. Why would I want if I can just buy the if I can why buy the cow if I can just get the milk for free, right? So, and no, I'm not any cows here. Let's make that clear, right? So with this here, good, you got that. So I'm a dad. I have dad jokes.
yeah.
So from here, um, so from here, we're giving marriage prep retreats about once every 2 weeks on average, and I'd give my testimony, and guys would start coming up to me like, I got this issue, what do I do? And I'm like, I guess I help you. And as I'm starting to kind of put together how I would help them, came to realize, Tom, like what I went through, this is duplicable. Like this is,
Mm.
I can, this is not just meant for me. And very quickly realizing, okay, this can help. So in 2013, Freedom Coaching is born. What is Freedom Coaching? Freedom Coaching is one-to-one mentoring for both men and women to break the attraction to pornography and unchaste behavior permanently
Mm.
through a transformation of mind, heart, and vision. That's a mouthful, right? And we'll unpack how this works in a moment. But I was a lone wolf for a long time doing this on and off various other entities, some secular jobs. And then 2018, got in touch with a guy on Instagram. We hit it off, and I actually would end up walking him through our process. He basically got freedom coaching for free over 10 months, and he would become our first, the second coach trained by me. His name is Chris, lives in Vancouver, Canada. And then from there, other coaches would appear. A guy who I was working with, a client, he's on meeting number 4, and he's like, dude, what do you do? It's literally how he sounds. And it's Chris. His name's Chris Ricketts. I'm like, okay, settle down, sunshine. Let's through. We're on stage 1. Let's get through your work. Well, lo and behold, Freedom Coaching. And this is a guy who was nearly possessed. Not a joke. Nearly possessed. He said, and he had done inpatient therapy. He said, Freedom Coaching, there's nothing like it. And so
Wow.
he came on board. Praise the Lord. All praise the Lord. And again, this has very little to do with me, more to do with my cooperation with grace. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then we have 8 total coaches, and we're hiring more, and we're working on this because this issue is epidemic. Again, it is the number one sin confessed in the confessional. It is destroying people, men and women, marriages, families, clergy, seminarians. We work with seminarians. We work with priests. Okay. We've seen the gamut. 8 to 82 years of age. Okay.
Mm.
It knows no boundaries. It doesn't matter if Trinity Catholic and Novus Ordo Catholic and Eastern Catholic. Okay. It doesn't matter if you don't believe anything, right? This stuff is hunting and stalking us. And if we know how to deal with this, then it's going to take us down, or try to, right? So
Mhm.
how does this work? Why is it so effective? Well, it's 4 stages, Tom. So stage 1 is called reintegration. We look at a client's history through an emotional lens. And so we're dealing with trauma. I mentioned the 3-headed hydra that affected and plagued me: guilt, shame, and self-hatred. Guilt, I've done a bad thing. Shame, I'm a bad person with no inherent worth. Self-hatred, I'm disgusting. I'm unlovable. Nobody could ever really receive me. And there's some overlap on those 3, right? So a person could be taught all the techniques and strategies to combat lust. But if that force field is up, I can't receive it. And frankly, I don't want to receive it. I'm not in a place to do it. But when we can break down that force field, guess what? We can start receiving ourselves. And most importantly, the chief psychologist, his name is Jesus. You might have heard of him. He's
Mhm.
got things he wants to say to each of us, but maybe beforehand we weren't in the position to receive it. And now the force field's down, and that his message of love can finally come in. So literally, Tom, in just 1, we get clients, we're getting full paragraphs from Jesus Christ. Okay.
Mm.
I'm like, I want that. I want
Yeah.
to hear him. Okay. And the things that they're sharing because of our own relationship and what we walk through is directly over the mark. It's a sign God's grace is present here. It's beautiful. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is a dive into the neuroscience of pornography. So there's a lot of chemicals: dopamine, norepinephrine, testosterone, um, and others that are impacting us, right? And what we find is the same chemicals that are stirred up during healthy marital relationships. Remember, human sexuality is a gift.
Mhm.
Marital intercourse is a gift. But what pornography is a cheap counterfeit. And it's the same chemicals, but a very different result. And with the shame, self-hatred, that's where that comes in, right? And it's very hard to live your life if that is what is breathing down your neck all the time, as we can say. Um,
Yeah.
so from here, doing that dive into the neuroscience pornography, this is what helps to bring the understanding why I can't free out of my own willpower. Okay. So if stages 1 and 2 is a breaking down, stages 3 and 4 is a building up. Okay. And, or we like to say in all of freedom coaching, we're climbing a mountain of sexual integrity.
Mm.
Okay. So base camp for that mountain is stage 3. We're going to take off your shoes and put better climbing shoes. Take off your pack, those boulders you've been carrying. Finally down, and then we're going to put another pack on you. That's going to help you to now we're climb, right? And your muscles, we've been developing these muscles all along as we're going. Now the formation really begins in earnest. So stage 3 is identity formation. Who are you? Who are you in the sight of God, right? Do you know who you are? If we don't know who we are, we can often make some very bad choices, right? But when we can know who we are, then we can move forward in our life in a very powerful way that brings life to others. So, and our way forward to identity is intimacy. So we need genuine intimacy. So intimacy with God, with ourselves, with others in very healthy ways. Okay. The word intimacy is not synonymous with what we do with our genitals. It has very little to do with our genitals. It has to do with who we are, male, female, in and through our bodies, our whole body. So then in receiving our true identity, the process we get a person into doing that, in receiving genuine intimacy, then this moves us into stage 4, vision coaching. Tom, the reason why most guys struggle with this and an increasing number of women is because they're blind. Let's use a story.
Mm.
Tom, there was a 9-year-old boy, true story. And this is, by the way, is in my book. My book is called Redeemed Vision. It's a 14-year project. The day the final edits were written was the day that Hugh Hefner, the founder of Playboy magazine, he passed away. So can
Whoa.
anything good? So can God's timing is flawless. And can anything good come from Nazareth? Well, can anything good come from Cleveland? We'll find out. So we like to say this is a changing of the guard. That's what God's doing. So in especially, that's where this story is placed. There's a boy, young boy, 9-year-old. He is out at the park with his family, and they're going to have a picnic. And he stumbles upon an image of 2 topless women advertising a strip club.
Mm.
Now, Tom, think about being 8 or 9. Maybe you're going to be different on this question, so this might not be a question, but play along here. Tom, if you were to find that image, 8 or 9 years old, what would be your initial reaction to doing that? What do you think?
I look at it.
Yeah, you look at it, and then what would you do with it typically? What do you think a lot of people do with it?
Probably hang on
A
to
lot
it.
of, yeah, hide it. I found buried treasure. I have the winning lottery ticket. Mine, my precious.
Yeah.
Right? The God, right? That's not what this boy did. This boy immediately went to his older sister and said, I found a yucky picture. And then she said, go to your older brother, show him that. And the older brother took it and he ripped it up and said, you don't need to look at that trash. And then the younger brother went on. So 2 questions come from this. How did the younger boy go to his older sister and say, this is a yucky picture? And then second, how did the older brother take that and rip it up and throw it away immediately? What do you think?
Well, I guess proper formation would be my guess.
Very good. Okay, here's your proper formation. So any parents who listen to this, listen up. This is very important. It was a lived, real experience of the human body. He had actually been raised in an environment of where he'd seen the naked human body in appropriate ways. Like take the issue of the Sistine Chapel, okay,
Mm.
where the body is exposed appropriately. Right up, I have an image of it's called the sacred and the profane. Okay, there's nakedness involved in that, but that's not pornography. And there's a specific objective content for the difference between art and pornography, beauty and all that's opposed to beauty. Okay, and if all we have, if all we know of is the pornified image and the lies about the body, and nature's going to pull back you, right? So we're going to go for that, especially in the world where in our original marriage family, it's like thank God, Tom, parents this, right? That your parents are married. Praise God, right? How many years married?
Let's see. 37 years now.
Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus. You have to ask them what's the secret, and they can pass it on to me. So maybe I can get through 15. So here we go. Okay. So from here, right? we should be receiving the love and the intimacy from our parents, but very few of us are actually receiving this. Right? Even if they're married, like nobody is a perfect marriage. Nobody is a perfect family, right? The term dysfunctional family is a redundant statement. The Holy Family, like anyone went wrong, like Joseph, like, but he's surrounded by such love, right? Such goodness that they they welcome him and they woo him, right? And they're present, and that helped. And he came in with natural virtue as well. But for us, right, who are dealing with this, we need that stuff. And if we don't find it, if we don't find the fresh water, and all we think is the septic tank, we'll fall for the septic tank, right?
Yeah.
So so this boy though had been surrounded by a family that loved him, and he knew they were loved. He was also surrounded by images
Mm.
that of wholesome sexuality, right? This is just how I grew up with it, right? And there was catechesis that followed it, right? And and if we have this, because again, if we have the counterpoint of seeing, here's the truth, Tom. This is what we aren't told. We're told that the ordinary naked human body is boring and it's kind of disgusting because it's not airbrushed. But
Hmm.
that's not the truth. The truth is of the ordinary human body. Yeah, it smells sometimes, right? Some things sag, right? Okay. But it's good. It's how we experience reality. I'm experiencing my body, even though on this side of the podcast, uh, with my voice, with my voice comes from you're experiencing in and through your body, right? And I hate to break it to everybody here, underneath your clothing, you're naked. What does that mean? What is the truth of human nakedness? And John Paul says in Theology of the Body, if you want to understand if you want to understand what it means to be human, we have to understand original nakedness, not what we get through the pornified glasses. And if we can get those removed, and the answer the way through that, Tom, is by learning how to see the body correctly through intimacy, through discovering our real identity, but especially being exposed to the counterpoint of the real, that's way more interesting. That's where counterfeit loses its power. So what happens is the scales fall from our eyes, and we no longer desire to look with lust. In
Mm.
fact, I want to see the person. And it's not just about when we're online or when we're on our phone, right? Which is in very important part. It's when we're out, maybe at a restaurant, right? Maybe there's a woman who's not dressed appropriately for the situation. So instead of a finger wagging and saying, "Oh, how dare you," or "Oh, I'm just trying to get another look," instead, I see the person. I love the person.
Yeah.
I gaze. And maybe if the opportunity presents, I go and I strike up a conversation and say, so beautiful. And you know what? The clothing you're wearing right now is taking away from your beauty.
Mm.
And again, appropriate time, appropriate context, how to do that. But again, we need to be challenged on our calling here, because every woman, the dignity of every man is the duty of every woman, and the duty of every man is the dignity of every woman, right? Both have. But it starts with men, right? But if we can't see, we're dead. But I'm here to proclaim boldly on the Green Dragon podcast that freedom is very real. It's not an option. It's what we are called to. Because the last time I checked, we were given eyes to see with a redeemed vision,
Mm.
vision that can transform ourselves and transform every single person we encounter.
Yeah. That's so true. Like it's something I mean just growing up and being a man and it's this, pornography is everywhere and then um the thing that broke me out of like even the desire to see it was like
Mhm.
getting to know people more, especially like
Yeah,
young women. You're just like, well, I care a lot more about just being with them and visiting with them than I would ever think about wanting to look at them that way. And
yeah.
I think one of the most beautiful things is when you have friends who are prettier than pornography models, and you're like, well, my friends are better looking than these other people, and they have better lives, and they don't want that. So what am I trying to go for even with these porn people? It's like,
Mhm.
and then it transforms your mindset into like thinking, well, how do I give these people that have probably extremely broken lives, and that's what brought them into this industry? how do I bring them out of that? Like, I
Mm.
don't know. Have you heard about that recent story of that OnlyFans model? Her name is Nala Ray. She just did a show with
Tell me.
Michael Bowles.
No, I need to look this up. Tell me.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll put it
Thank
in the
you.
show notes. Her name is
Great.
Nala Ray. She was also in a family where her parents divorced, and then reunited. Um, and she said God was kind of in their life, but not really. And then it sounded like later
Mm.
her dad became a pastor, I think. Um, but she fell into it, and she just recently became
Awesome.
baptized, and now she's like talking about how to get out of it. And
Awesome.
yeah, it's really wonderful. Like you just listen to her story and you're like, oh, this person was a real person, you know? It's like that, I think that's part of like the pornography lenses is you don't think of them as a person with feelings and desires and hopes. You just see them as like someone who's I don't know, maybe totally lost, you know? So there's no hope of redemption. So you don't really think of them as a person that can be redeemed. And just seeing a story of Nala, like coming out of that industry. She was like the top one and only was like top 0.1%.
Wow. Wow.
And she was like, I think she was making over $9 million a year. And she just gave it all up. And she said that she feels so much more peace just knowing that God loves her and that she can have a life again.
Mm.
And I think like the something about like with your coaching is like the freedom coaching, like showing people how, it's there's hope that what you did doesn't completely define you. Like you've had struggles, you've tried to work through it, you couldn't find a way, you're broken, you come to someone who's been there and they've come through and then they can help you bring you through it. I think that's like I think that's a very the Christian message that God tries to give us, but we don't see it all the time. It's in the Bible, Christ always says, come to me. But when we don't see him every day, or let's say even if we see him through the sacraments, it's not like someone else who's right there loving us. And I think that's why Christ wants our brothers and sisters to come through our brothers and
Mm.
sisters and to live through them to show us his love. And that's what brings us to the beauty of seeing people real. It's like when someone loves you that let's say you're afraid of to talk to, or someone that you admire from afar and they actually show you care or something like that, that like kind of tears down your fears and worries that you can never be loved again. And that idea of like, oh, I'm not good enough to be loved again kind of fades away by someone just talking to you and helping you through something, just enables you to become that loving person you've always wanted to be, but you never thought you could.
Amen. 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 Yeah, no, and that because to the degree that we see our greatness is the degree that we're going to see others, right? But we first, again, you can't give what you don't have, right? And again, if there's this doubt, which especially stems from shame,
Hmm.
then we're going to buy the lies, which
Yeah,
is which can be crippling.
very crippling. And um, I was wondering if maybe you could share some light on like um, how are like how would you recommend like younger people that are struggling with porn, like how do they start to see someone as someone that they can love and not someone as
Mm.
just something for their instant gratification?
Right, right. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great question, Tom. Where do we begin? So I would first and foremost start cultivating an attitude of gratitude. Okay.
Mm.
The source and summit of our faith is the word Eucharist from the Greek translates as thanksgiving, right? And many of the things in our world today is training us to be ungrateful in many cases. Now, when we are ungrateful, we're taking the perspective that life owes me something. It means the people in my world aren't really people, they're a means to an end. And if I don't get what I want, then I have the right to emote some very powerful emotions, usually anger or belligerence or like that. We've all perhaps seen them in the drive-through or wherever on the highway or wherever. So the way forward on this is to shift our mindset on this, that I'm being grateful here. So first assignment we give to all clients, I'll give it to you today. Make a list of 100 items, person, place, thing, event that you are thankful for.
Mm,
Don't overthink it. I am grateful for and thankful for. And then read that list every day for the next 4 weeks,
mm,
really focusing on what you're saying, right?
mm,
Because what this begins to do begins to shift us from a self-focused to an
mm,
other-focused.
mhm,
And this is how it begins to break through. That we begin to realize that maybe other people in front of me have thoughts, have opinions, have hopes, have dreams, have trials, difficulties,
mhm,
pains, right?
mhm,
So instead of just being this anonymous object that I use, abuse, lose, and in the process lose myself,
mm,
and I become a poser, now I'm engaging with an actual human being here and realizing that, yeah, they may be dressed a certain way, acting a certain way. At the root, they're a beloved son or daughter of God that I'm
mhm,
called to love here, right? And we take this perspective and more focus on it, it becomes increasingly difficult to objectify. And to close out this whole section, what it's been said, Lauren Hill of an old band called the Fugees, she said, yes, I'm dating myself. What people want is fantasy. What they need is reality. So the more we can encounter reality, and you said it's something extremely important. So many kids are now are spending so much time in um, on online, on devices, inside. The show called Stranger Things, you might be familiar with it. When
mhm.
they hired these kids, they had to there's bike riding scenes in that movie, in that show, basically. They have to teach all the kids how to ride a bike. These are 10-year-olds.
Wow.
Okay. Wow, indeed, right? This is just commonplace. We all rode our bikes all the time growing up, right? And if you forget, guess what? It's just like riding a bike. So from here, right, um, right, getting into the real. What are real experiences with real people? That's what we want. And how can I? So every day, how can I connect with somebody? And again, I know with young people, right? There's that desire for like FOMO's there, fear of missing out, but also the idea like we're maybe we've been hurt. I mean, middle school, high school could be brutal, right? But especially, where's a lot of that behavior coming from? It's coming from the devices that we've been on, right? So we've got to really check here. And I would say to any parent here to quote from the book called Below Kids, which do I have it? I have it downstairs. Um, uh, it's recommended no screens before 10, no media at least 14 or 15. Okay. And really heavily monitor this stuff. But remember, if you put your hope in technology, technology will fail you. So it's not just a technological answer here. It's about that transformation of mind, heart, and vision, and getting out. And then what we discovered, you've discovered, Tom, life is way more interesting.
Yeah.
There's something way more like you're in Wyoming, you ride horses, right?
Yeah. Mhm,
Right? There's something to like get out there, right? Um, and again, you may not want to ride horses. I like gardening. I like getting my hands dirty. I like to, bury bodies. I mean, I just bury vegetables. I'm kidding. All right. So from here, I don't bury bodies. So from here, though, what do we like to do offline? Right, getting these and with people, because life is meant to be with. How I be with, and when I'm with people, take my phone, put it off the table so that there's no distractions. I'm fully present to the person I'm with.
yeah. Well, I'm 100% with you there. So I don't know if you know, but in Wyoming Catholic, they have a no phone policy. So you have to turn your phone in for 4 years. And um, something I'm so grateful about that is um, all of my friends from that school, and then any friends that we've met along the way that kind of went on similar paths, but then we connect with them through other avenues.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
everyone, the last thing they want to do is pull out their phone. It's like,
Mm.
oh, I have a message I have to check, so I'll check this and I'll be right back. It's like, and it's so freeing because something I found was there's such a joy in giving something that you have that you're good at with your friends in a group. Like, Um, that's cool. Singing and like bonfires were really common. And so
Yeah.
all of us would just hang around the campfire for hours just talking about stuff. And then
And
like
light things on fire.
yeah, yeah. So um and then like now I try to do like weekly or bi-weekly like dinners for people. So they just come over and usually it's like,
Awesome. Awesome.
like growing up you're like, oh, let's go watch a movie. And now it's like, well, let's hang out, and movies never really come up. It's like it's almost like we
Let's
have to set
talk.
time. Yeah, you just talk with people. And it's amazing. Like you get to share stories, you get to,
Mhm.
I don't know, there's something about like that, like you're saying, the intimacy with other people, like getting to know them for who they are, allowing them to see you for who you are. Um, and I think you start to see that real joy of connecting with people and seeing that joy that God wants us to have with others. Um, just by being around people more. Like I train at the gym every morning, or most mornings, and there's like a squad of us, that go there every morning. And it's like we're all there to, train, do hard stuff,
Awesome.
but it's like,
Awesome.
yeah, it's just like you're there and you're just spending an hour with other people, and you just feel like, oh, this is good. Like I'm with someone or with friends, we're training, we're having a good time, and then we move on to our day. And then I think it keeps transferring. Like you learn how to express your ideas and share what you're thinking about with your coworkers, and then it just keeps expanding. And I think that's like that idea of like we want the fantasy, but we actually desire reality. It's like the
Amen.
reality that God gives us is really amazing. It's just I think it's tried to be shown as boring. I feel like
Yep.
growing up as a homeschool Catholic, you know, where if you don't think about it hard enough, you start to think that life is just rules and regulations. And then but I think when you grow older, then you're like, oh no, like that stuff was better. Like having friends and doing fun stuff was way better than having what the world gives you, which is like, entertainment, pleasure, all these different things that are just so shallow. There's nothing there. It's like instant and then it's gone. There's nothing long lasting about it.
Amen. So the question is, do we really know what really satisfies? Do we really know what is helping us to become more human? The more human, and that's why I would say the more connections we can make, let it do that. So if just on the point of technology, and then Tom, I have to go actually break because I've got some time with my family.
Oh,
Be real,
sure.
get off, right? So and we can pick this up. I'm happy to have another conversation.
Yeah.
But like if it's a choice between texting and calling, call. If it's a choice between calling and going visiting in person, visit in person. What's the
Mm,
more human that I can use here, right? So, and I think it's a call here. This is part of learning how to see. It's a part of learning how to live a redeemed vision, right? So that I can enter into as much human relationships as possible. And in the human relationships, we believe we encounter God. And that's a
mm.
beautiful, beautiful thing.
It really is. I really love that. Well, I will let you go here. It was a pleasure having you on. Steve, thank you
Thank you.
so much. I will definitely have to do this again. I learned so much today, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And
No,
I will put your coaching in the show notes, and I'll
sure.
share the video with you once it's up. So,
Thank you. And just to also, just so for those, just to close, so people who are hearing this, you can check out our work at freedom-coaching.net. That's one of the places where to get in touch with me or any other coaches, get an idea for the work we do. About once a month, we do an online healing event. It's free to attend that. So we do some healing prayer. Also, if you are familiar with the platform called Formed, there's a 12-part series called Redeeming Our Vision, which gives a pretty good taste of what we do. And one of the best things on how to answer the uh, pornified world that we live in. And then also especially just a calling out to those who feel like there's no hope. And I want to say, as Tom, you asked me that question: is there hope? There always is, right? And so, if this is an issue, if pornography use or unchaste behavior, body dysmorphia, things that we're just uncomfortable with, there is hope, there's healing. And if freedom coaching, the work that we do, can be of service to you, drop us a line. We'd be honored to hear you, to receive you, and to walk with you into healing and freedom.
Thank you so much, Steve. Well, definitely, please share everything you can with your coaching and the online service, and we'll try to share
Absolutely.
that with our audience and help as many
Awesome.
people as we can.
Awesome. An honor, Tom. A blessing to you. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay.
Will do. Thank you again,
All right.
Steve.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tom. God bless.